tight schedule, end of a working day, so we will get going. So I've got the privilege of welcoming everybody, and yeah, I've just had a quick look through the participants. I recognise some of the names, so welcome to any new career leaders. And you know, I'm sure the team will be in contact with you, but obviously please do let us know if there's any specific information, support you need. So welcome everybody, and another challenging start, you know, thinking it's spring term, and I think today's felt a bit like spring and positive, but another challenging start, you know, and I think we're all beginning to accept that the only certainty is uncertainty at the moment. I'm going to start by saying some goodbyes and hellos before we launch into this exciting agenda. As I said, welcome to any new careers leaders. I know we've seen a few move on recently, and you'll be aware that Claire Donnelly is no longer working with our team as an enterprise coordinator, but is still supporting our team working in BEP. So we said goodbye to Claire at Christmas. And I shall be saying goodbye to the hub this term. I shall be leaving in March, so it's goodbye from me as well. And it's been a very exciting journey for me the past 5 years, when I was approached to help set up the Enterprise Advisor Network in 2017, and it's great to see it now a hub of over 100 schools and colleges. And I, you know, just wanted to just briefly say thank you to all the careers leaders who, and I know I worked with many of you pre-CC, when we used to have careers roadshows, not careers clinics. And, you know, it's been, you know, great working with you all. So, you know, clearly the support, commitment of you as careers leaders has helped to develop this fantastic work in Birmingham, and we're going to have a taster of it this afternoon. And, you know, I'm delighted to welcome new people to the team, and I wonder if they can, you know, quickly say hello, because they're likely to be working with you. You may receive some information from them, so to put faces to names. So I think some of you may have met Jerry, but Jerry, if you'd like to say hello.
Oh, hi everybody, I'm Jerry.
Okay. So Jerry's joined us as an EC. Udine, you want to say hello?
Hi everybody.
Hi Udine, and Cheryl.
Hello everyone.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Cheryl's joined us as an employer engagement coordinator, so we'll be providing invaluable support to the hub. I'm going to introduce Rav in a minute because it's her first day. Some of you will know Rav already, and there's nothing like launching in straight in the deep end on your first day, and Rav will be presenting this fantastic resource. And having accurate labour market information has always been a key part of careers work, of careers information, you know, knowing what jobs, what pathways are available to young people. And we know that the pandemic has created angst in terms of what opportunities are available for young people. But this is, as the title says, it's said on the tin, this is the resource that we've all been waiting for. You know, Mike and I met with the LEP just before the pandemic to discuss creating a resource, and it's great to see how it's developed to this resource today. You'll see there the agenda, so we've got, you know, input from the LEP, from the team, on this fantastic guide. So I think enough from me. So I'll hand over to Rav, I think it is first, to do the introduction. So welcome to the team, Rav, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm in a quite a fortunate position that I was working on this pre-joining the Birmingham Education Partnership, but what I can tell you is when we've created this resource for young people, what we've been trying to do is look at it to give them as much information as possible to go off and continue their research. So it's not been a one-stop shop and they read this and they know everything. It has really been about trying to equip them with as much information to inspire them to go and do some additional resources and research, and that's how we try to produce it. what we've wanted young people, or people that are having those conversations with the young people to consider, is really looking to get a better understanding of what it is they want and how to what they should be thinking when they're kind of coming to this document. It's kind of what qualifications and career pathways are best options available for them. And each of these career sectors we've looked at the different pathways. So it hasn't always been the academic route or just the apprenticeship route. It's about looking about different options to kind of go into that and understanding what actually jobs are happening locally. And you'll notice throughout the document we've referred to regional, national and Birmingham level data, because I think it's important people don't just see Birmingham in the job roles and market. And then obviously some of us are hybrid working at the moment, but that moving across for certain sectors, it could be that if you're in the creative culture and you're interested in gaming, you're going over to Leamington area, to the gaming quarters. And it's about knowing where those are so that they're not missing out on something by just looking slowly in their area. So kind of a couple of prompts really for young people to kind of see, and the types of data that we've used is what we've tried to do is look at a real range of data sets. So MC is actually a comprehensive LMI tool that we use. Both the local 3 LEPs all use it as an indication of what's going on in the job market. So it's live information which looks at a forecast. You can look at it at daily, the snapshot, or you can look at it, a 12 months or a 3-year trend to see what's happening. And what we've used a lot of that information to look at the scale and the volumes and the salaries and what types of job roles are available. And that's where some of that data has come from, also using Midlands Engine and Midlands Observatory. Also feedback from GBS LEP sector specialists. Some of the sectors that we've highlighted are growth sectors that the LEP are involved in developing further, and we've tried to get as much feedback from those sector specialists, and this resource has gone out to them. So we've really tried to get as much enriched information into this for young people, and obviously we've been engaging with local employers and employees within the sectors. What you will find this resource, the kind of information that's available in it. So it's LMI resource for all, and I want to stress that all, we have been looking at resources that are suitable for the SEND cohort, and that there's accessible information there. So we've tried to look at different ways, qualifications and pathways, the different qualifications and pathways, understanding the different levels, and kind of really getting familiar with the language that's used for qualifications, because those in the sectors we talk about level 2, level 3 just really comfortably, but young people might not understand what those are. So we try to explain those. We've gone much deeper dive than other. We have compared what's been produced with other areas for this kind of information for young people, and we've really tried to provide young people with enhanced amount of information, and that's where we've gone into a lot of detail, is the sector focused stuff. So there's a lot of information on there, but also about entrepreneurships and pathways, the different skills there, apprenticeships, traineeships, volunteering. They're all really positive pathways that we want to make sure young people know. But also it was an opportunity for us to share some key information. So there's FAQs, interview tips, employabilities, and resources, activities for them to go away and do, to kind of which can be used in schools as activities or just as homework to research, and kind of understanding what are the next step destinations and pathways from there. So there's kind of a lot of information for young people to kind of go away and look at. Next slide, please. So the growth sectors, well, the sectors that these are all the sectors that we've covered. What you will see from the My Way is we've gone a little bit further in depth in the growth sectors, and those we've kind of just really gone that little bit further information, because they are sectors that have been identified through initially the industrial strategy as sectors for the Birmingham area and GBS LEP area that we are expected to see a growth in vacancies, and that's why we've highlighted those initially they're ones that would be opportunities for young people to think about that they might have not initially thought about. They're not the traditional careers that they might have known about as much. So, and because they're growth sectors, we felt like they needed a little bit more information. However, there's still the enabling sectors. So these are job roles where they are still in high demand and they're a big part of our economy. And those jobs are still here and they're evolving. And so we've kind of gone into those details as well with information. And with each of the sectors, the kind of information you'd expect to see. Louise, next slide, please. Thank you. So the kind of information that you'd expect to see in each of those is, we've tried to look at it. So if you're looking at one sector on its own, you'll kind of see some information, but it's really useful for you to be able to compare the size and scale of each sector. So we've got, you know, the types of businesses, GVA, the number of employees within the sector, number of employees within the region or nationally. So you can really kind of get a feel of actually how big that sector is for the region, or actually what, you know, the scale of it, and understand on its own. A lot of young people would be kind of like, what's the GVA, you know, how does that relevant to their careers? But where it kind of comes back to is if they're looking at going, oh, actually this industry is actually one of the biggest ones, so actually there's a lot of jobs, there's a lot of money in there, there's a lot of scope and investment, then actually that is a sustainable career route that they could look at. What we've done is a lot of key facts, some of the stuff that maybe people wouldn't necessarily know about, and major investments that are happening, the types of roles as well, because there's so many roles that we just assume are in the sector, but actually within our region the roles that are most predominant are X, Y and Z. So we've brought those out, and these have all been taken by actual LMI information. It isn't just looking at, you know, the national careers information that's available on websites. This is actually based on live LMI data and looking at who those employers are. So this is again data backed, that supports the region, and looking then bringing back how that's relevant to the young persons. Well, if they are interested, what skills do I need, what qualifications do I need, what kind of salary could I earn? So we've tried to incorporate that information in there to support the LMI information. So it kind of goes to say, okay, you know, I might need to do my 3 sciences for this subject, or actually I might need to think of taking about an arts program, so they can look at those. And for each of these, we've managed to get people from the sectors to actually give us interviews, and we're really pleased with those, because they're real people, real stories, and that really kind of, we've been trying to work to make sure that these people that are giving their stories are people that are relevant to the young people, that feel like them, that the people that are from the area, that they're local employees, they're not just stock images and they're not just stock videos that we've got. These are all relevant to the information produced, and in each sector there are links and hyperlinks there that they can go off to look at. You know, for example, if you click on the BPFS one, you can go into HSBC and look at their work experience program that's available. So there are really useful links on there. So when you are working with young people, it's really worth you just spending a bit of time and encouraging them to go and dig a little bit deeper and use those links. And what we've got is the lovely wheel of apprenticeships. I'm not sure if you've seen the document yet or not, but we've tried to give an example of apprenticeships in each of the sector and a range of levels. So apprenticeships aren't for those that can't. Apprenticeships are all levels. You know, there are pathways across it that you might go down the academic route, then come back into the apprenticeships, or you might go that way to get your degree. You know, the different options there. So what we've tried to do is just provide as much information as possible in the booklet for the young people, just to kind of get a taste of the sectors, then for them to go away and have some further research and conversations with yourselves.
As I said, I work for Greater Birmingham Solihull Local Enterprise Partnership, and I actually cover 2 other areas, so Coventry and Warwickshire and the Black Country. And my area is data-driven health and life sciences, which seems quite specific. And it was identified as an area of growth in a government document a couple of years ago. And it was not because of the size of it, because actually there aren't that many businesses in the West Midlands. It was about 400 plus. But it was identified as an area of growth because of its potential, the huge value it brings. And that was done before the pandemic. So you can imagine now it's worth even more. So data-driven health is part of a wider remit of life sciences, and that covers things like pharmaceuticals, medical technology, biotech. So it's not medicine, dentistry, etc. It's a separate discipline. So as I said, there's huge opportunities around the area, and we had a piece of work done last year. And again, it was based on data pre-pandemic, but we estimate that there's going to be about 10,000 new jobs that are going to be needed by 2030. And the West Midlands is focusing on data-driven health because it's sort of linked to its past as the Industrial Revolution and how we're really good at making things. So you may have come across something called the Golden Triangle. The Golden Triangle is London, Oxford, Cambridge, and it's very much more focused on the pharmaceutical industry. Now, our strength in the West Midlands is making things. So we're really good at inventing things, concept to actually making it by engineers. That's where we see as our niche market. So the things that we try and focus on in the West Midlands for that is something we call the 4Ds. So around diagnostics, digital health, devices, and it's all underpinned by data. So if you take those 4 themes and work backwards, you can sort of tell the types of careers that are going to be needed. It is fair to say that most of the jobs in the sector do require a degree, and we would strongly recommend that any of the people that you talk to and they're looking at doing a degree in going into this, they look for sandwich degrees, because again, having that year experience, especially with lab skills, is invaluable. So the types of jobs and the qualifications that are needed. So if you have a look at the LMI that has just been done and Ralph was talking about, my colleague Andrew talks in there, and he goes out and talks to businesses, and the 2 things that always come up for life science businesses in the West Midlands is finance and skills. They can't get enough of either. And the qualifications that they need are things like computer scientists, data analysts, software developers, scientific researchers, people who want to go into genomics, biologists, software developers, because again, the trends in the NHS, again, it's no surprise to anybody, is you know, there's an ever-growing demand, but actually it's about personalisation of care. So it's looking at the devices and how to manage it and monitor it. So again, the West Midlands is trying to differentiate itself from the other areas, because we recognise that this is potentially an area we can really shine at because of our shared history. So the types of things also lend themselves to going across other sectors. So, you know, with COVID, the daily briefings, it was all about the data analytics. But, you know, we've got a burgeoning business professional services sector in Birmingham. And, you know, if you want to be a data analyst, you can easily swap between sectors. So that was just a very brief run through of data and health and life sciences for West Midlands. And just to say, you know, I'm happy to take any questions or, you know, talk offline and give a bit more detail. But I was told it was only a couple of minutes long, so I hope that's enough information for now.
Cheers, Louise. My name is James Ellison from Creative Alliance. So Creative Alliance are a training provider, but we specialise in creative digital marketing apprenticeships. My main role is to work a lot with employers that sort of take on apprentices and are looking to train and develop, but primarily in creative sector. So the creative sector through the pandemic particularly has fared okay in some areas and not so well in others. In the sort of growing and good areas is your web development, marketing. I mean, gaming has grown by a lot, because obviously a lot of people are stuck inside playing games and things like that. So the web development and marketing side of things, and particularly content production. The area that's probably suffered the most would be the cultural sector, which we do cover, but that is opening up. And I know from our connections with the MAC that they are particularly looking for people in the technical areas. So what we would call technical theatre, so looking at light, sound and stage. But I know that now they're opening up, they are looking for staff and struggling to find very good staff. So in terms of around the Midlands area, there is a sort of growing film and video production, and the video production companies that we've worked with have grown particularly taking on more staff. There's been movies being created in Birmingham over the last few years. Dumbo was filmed here, and so was Ready Player One. Marketing, definitely, and they've been very innovative. So people looking to do marketing, particularly core skills, communication, English, and even mathematics, because if you look at a lot of the analytics that goes alongside digital marketing, that can be quite strong. Development, gaming development, web development, and software development. There's probably two ends of this. There's the artistic side, so people who are looking at the designing side of things, designing characters, designing webs, making things user-friendly. And then there's the logistical and kind of mathematical side, which is the development side. So looking at things like coding, those are very strong, and there is always growth, to be honest, across the UK for that. Across the globe really is in desperate need for coding. I know that 25% of all gaming and coders were from, in the UK, staff-wise, were Eastern European, and due to Brexit, a lot of that talent is potentially not going to be in the country, so there will be a giant skills gap over the next few years. So if somebody is really looking into it, get themselves to learn how to code, and those kind of things. Obviously, I work primarily in apprenticeships, and I see great success. We have had, since July, probably the busiest time we've ever had, putting just in the Midlands around 80 or 90 apprentices in creative and digital marketing alone. The other area that's quite good is content production. So somebody who's maybe good at writing, a bit of designing, a bit of filmmaking, can do a little bit of all. A lot of companies, we've got estate agents, health companies, solicitors wanting to take on people that can do a bit of everything for their marketing, which can be very, very good. It is National Apprenticeship Week next week. So if you've got any learners that are potentially looking at apprenticeships, we have an Instagram live on February the 10th at 4:30 and 6:30, where we've got an employer and a learner coming in to talk about how they got their apprenticeship, what the learner was what the employer was looking for, and what the learner felt that they did that made them, you know, an attractive offer and why they think they got their job. So that's a live Instagram broadcast. I'll put in the chat our Instagram, so you can just share that, and any learner with an Instagram can just jump on and watch it. There's no tickets, there's nothing, you just jump on, it's live. And yeah, and I think if you are talking to young people looking to get into the creative digital marketing sector, my thing I've put notes on here is to show your passion. So go out and make things. You know, a big thing that the employers always look for is, okay, you're saying you're passionate about designing, show us. There's loads of free software out there, things like Canva, and I know some of the links are in the LMI guide as well, but there's free software out there that can get them started, and just that shows a lot to an employer. Yeah, I think that's about it from me. I know we had 5 minutes, but yeah.
Thanks, James. That was fabulous. There are a few questions coming into the chat. Obviously, we're conscious of time because we know that not all of you can stay to the end, and we do want to get onto the LMI resource. So, you know, just to note, yeah, the things that you're talking about, we've had James about companies that would promote the roles in schools, and there's been something about doing short videos. Those are all the sorts of things that we're talking to employers and links with the LEP all the time. So continue to put your questions. What we don't get answered through the presentation at the end, we'll obviously take these issues back and address the questions then after the clinic, and get the messages out to you all when we send out the recording. Okay, we need to now, I think, have a bit of an overview of the guide that we've talked about, and we're going to look now. We're going to hand over to BB. Are you on the call, BB?
BB does a video. I'm just bringing it up. Thank you.
Okay. So BB from Calthorpe Academy, and before we start looking at the structure of the guide, BB is just going to give us a short overview.
the slide's not working. Mike, can you just talk around the guide? I can't bring up the pictures. I'm not sure what's happening on my side.
Yeah, of course. If you want to have a look at getting the presentation back up.
Yeah.
For those of you I think I've met virtually everyone. I'm Mike Pipe, the Senior Enterprise Coordinator for Birmingham Careers Hub. We'll be sharing the full actual document with you towards the end of this presentation, but to try and give you a flavour, obviously Rav and everyone has covered kind of like the areas we'll be covering. So not just the growth sectors, but also the enabling sectors as well, making sure that there's information about our raft of opportunities for the young people. One of the things we're always doing, we're talking to schools, is looking at how we can really expand people's knowledge about a sector. So looking underneath what a sector term might be, and that's another element this LMI brochure will bring. So for an example, we're just going to lift up one of the pages. So this is one of the sectors, so one of the growth sectors, just to give you a flavour of what the pages will look like and the information it will contain, and also what's embedded within these documents. So we've picked out the low carbon and energy technology sector. So as an overarching sector, that's where we start off, but then we're going to start looking at the subsectors. So it may not be an area that your students know too much about, but this will give you an opportunity to look at actually what roles are inside that sector, what could they do. So you've got lots of information involved with each of the different pages within the guide. So for growth sectors and the enabling sectors as well. So you'll see you've got national and regional figures. Because one of the things we want to try and make sure is young people realise there are opportunities. Now, they might not always be in your Birmingham West Midlands area. And I think it's best to be honest with the young people to say, well, actually, if that's really where you want to do what you want to do, this is the real central hub for that role. So this could be where you need to look. But we can start to look at kind of like the jobs and the contribution to local economy. We can also look at the number of businesses in the region. So if we're looking at low carbon energy, to say that there's over 5,000 low carbon businesses in the region, it starts to give young people an idea of just the size of this and what the possibilities could be, because there are all these businesses in the area that they may not even think about. We start looking at kind of like how many are based in Greater Birmingham Solihull, and that's the point I'm talking about, that it might be worth them understanding that this needs to be looked a bit further than just Birmingham. So students knowing where the central hubs are for these opportunities. That's not to say that aren't going to be the jobs in Birmingham, but they may need to look outside for the really the large organisations with all the opportunities they want to access. We start to look at regional strengths. So down here where you've got the little trophy, you've got the regional strength. So for this sector in particular, regionally, we've got in there wind, we've got the building side of it, we've got water and wastewater treatment and biomass. So these could be areas that young people want to dig into. With a lot of these sectors, especially the growth sectors, you've got some major investment information towards the bottom to really bring that kind of area to life. Now, on this sector in particular, you'll have information about Aston University, about Tyseley Energy Park, but also what Birmingham is trying to do around zero carbon. And as it says, it's the home of the UK's first multi-fuel low and zero carbon fuel refueling station. So we start to get an idea of just how big this is. On the right-hand side of the screen, you'll see the subsectors, but you also see job roles as well. So we can go deeper than just saying low carbon and energy. We can look into clean energy, environmentalists and retrofit, which may be titles that young people can then go away and have a look at. It's like giving them some titles and some areas to really focus on. The grey circles are looking at actual roles. So what roles would they be doing within that subsector? And it starts to get them to think about buzzwords that they need to look into, potential areas they can go away and research as well. You've got some top employers in there as well. So for the low carbon sector, you'll see you've got the likes of Shell, E.ON, UK Power Reserve, Flow Energy. So again, there's an idea of who's actually employing in the area. On each of the slides, you'll see in the bottom right, you'll see we've got to find more about the qualifications. And if you're using this as an electronic document, as you click that, it'll link you back into the sections earlier in the guide, which will tell you about your qualifications and pathways. So it links it nicely back to different sectors to make sure that young people are joining together what's needed within this area and what sectors and pathways they can follow. Louise, fantastic. Below that slide, obviously, you've got your examples of the roles. So you'll start to have a look at the roles within that sector and look at the subjects that young people would really need to be interested in that are relevant to those different roles. So you've got, for clean energy at the top, English, math and science, they're going to be your key areas. You'll be able to look at the specific roles and look at their salaries. So their expected starting salary and kind of like their range that a young person could be looking at within that role. So they're all listed there for all the different sectors as well. As I said, this is just an example of the energy sector. And the skills are on just at the right of the actual roles and the actual salaries, looking at the key things that are really needed within those roles. So if we were just to look straight across the top, we're going clean energy, solar technician, starting salary of around about 23,000. And the key skills they'll be looking for in those kind of jobs will be your problem solving, literacy and numeracy. So we start to think about, right, we need to be looking at these. So from a young person's point of view, is problem solving one of their skills? And if not, let's have a look at how we can increase those problem solving skills. There may be activities we can do and suggest that will actually help them. On the right hand side, and for each of the different sectors, you'll see there are videos embedded. So the young people, teachers, parents, whoever wants to use this resource can go and click into these. Now they'll be linked into the specific sector. So as you'll see on this one, the first video is an interview from David, who's from the Tyseley Energy Park, who will talk about what Tyseley Energy Park is doing and how to access it, what kind of skills they'll be looking for, what jobs they have. You've also got My Energy Future. You've got links throughout this, and it's a resource that a lot of young people will know about, or what teachers will know about, the I Could resource. Always a good way of having a look at videos, inspiration, but it also brings in extra LMI because their videos are supported with LMI information as well. With each of the sections as well, you've got activities embedded. So if you can just go back up for me, Louise, just last one, just so I can show those ones first before I go to activities. So what Louise has just shown is the activity, but throughout the actual page of the resource, you've got these buttons that are on the right hand side. So you've got your cogs on here, and they're going to represent different resources. If you see the brain icon, which is just down there on the right hand side as well, that highlights if it's going to be an inclusive resource. So the idea of this resource is inclusive, and the resources have been designed to make sure that they are accessible by SEND students as well. So depending on which resource you'd like, which one do you think is more useful for your students, you can click the ones. So the cogs without the brain in will be our standard mainstream kind of resources, and then we've got some SEND specific accessible ones which have got the brain in the cog. I'll show you those resources in a second, but just below them in every section you've also got a number of useful links, so the young people can go in and click into the useful links. So in here within this sector around our energy companies, we've got links into green growth story map, Tyseley Energy Park, well linked in there, energy careers. So it just means that if young people are looking through these pages and they're looking at thinking, actually, that's something that I would actually like to look further into, they've got the links ready to go straight there for them. And then if we just go on to the next page, we'll be able to show you what the resources look like. So you've got a couple of research activities here. So you've got your mainstream one, as it says, on the left-hand side, and SEND specific ones on the right-hand side, which include using imprint widgets as well. So if your students are familiar with that resource with imprint widgets, they'll be straight away with these resources, which would be great. But on the left-hand side, you've got research activities to do, and it will take your young people through these topics. And these are linked to each of the different sectors. So there's activities for them to do, which will walk them through them. It will link to the National Careers Service website, which is always going to be a key place for young people to go and access more information. But they're all ready to go, embedded within that that document itself. So as soon as you click on them, your resources will open up. I think, is there one more for me, Louise? Excellent. We're always working with our schools to look at how we can make these meaningful, how we can make the activities meaningful. So one of the key things is always going to be feedback. So there are feedback activities and feedback sheets linked into this document as well. Again, we've got mainstream and SEND accessible resources, which the SEND resources also allow any teachers or supporting staff to add some notes in there as well. So schools can actually record the use of a resource, but also what learning as a young person taken from that, and can be a really key way of making the use of an LMI resource like this meaningful, because you're getting the young person's voice. You can find out what they've actually looked into, what they're going to carry on to do, what are their next steps. So if they found that the section or the activity they've done useful, what are they going to do with that? They're almost the so what. So now that you've seen something you're interested in, what's next? So how else can we help you? So there's a way to actually build that story with a young person of not just using the resource, but seeing how effective that is to give them some learning and next steps as well.
Excellent, thank you, Mike. Sorry for earlier on. I'll go back to the video from BB now.
Not a problem.
As she's worked on this project as well and supported with ensuring that the document was inclusive and accessible for all. So I'll just go back to that. The volume might be a bit low, so please turn up your volume on your side. Thank you.
The Lmi Digital Guide was collaboratively produced as a resource to support young people, parents and teachers to learn about.
Okay, Louise, the video.
Paused.
Yeah.
The labour market information within Birmingham and also the surrounding areas. The LMI Guide has been produced in a digital format with the aim to be accessible to all learners, including our SEND learners, with the use of symbols, icons, videos and activities planned to meet the needs of our learners. The aim is for the young people and learners to research and find out more about key sectors within Birmingham, but also the career pathways available to them post-16 and 19. It also gives teachers an opportunity to utilise the resource to support learners, especially with careers within the curriculum, which also will support schools and demonstrate their commitment to the GATSI benchmarks. Parents can also use this guide in order to support their son and daughter's career journey by making informed careers choices and have access to up-to-date information. At the start of the project, we created a focus group at Calthorpe which consisted of learners, parents and teachers, and some of the feedback that we had was that it was a colourful resource, they loved the videos and it was handy to have all in one place. Teachers were particularly grateful of the SEND activities attached so that it could be incorporated into lessons, making lessons more functional and ranging around careers. Once the link was live, what we will be doing is putting it onto our school website so that our learners and our parents and our stakeholders can also gain that information. I personally enjoyed being part of the working party alongside Louise, the Birmingham Careers Hub, the GBS LEP and also Creative Alliance, and we all hope that the guide will be used and enjoyed by all. Thank you.
Okay, so obviously when you get to look at the card, you will see, as Bibi said, it's been really put together with a mind that it is accessible to all students. So hopefully that will become clear when you actually get to have a look at the guide. We thought what would be useful now, oh sorry, before I move on to that, there's been quite a bit of activity in the chat, so please do follow the chat. We are trying to answer questions as we go along. Thanks James for putting your details in. That people want to contact you and about support you can give with activities in schools. So do have a look at the chat if you want to get those details from there. What we thought would be useful now was when we'd completed the guide, we got it out to 4 careers leaders in hub schools and asked them to have a look at it, and they're going to give you now a bit of feedback about what they found and how they would use the LMI resource in their schools.
We've got the first person, so Claire from HBVC.
Claire first, yeah, great. Claire, are you there?
Hello, I am. I wasn't expecting to be first though.
Get it over with. Get it over with, Claire.
So, my background is careers leader and also the employability manager. So I've actually looked at how this tool can link into benchmarks 7 and 8 also, and how they can plan into the strategic plan moving forward, because there's quite a few avenues that can make that possible. Louise, can we do the first slide? So looking at how we'd use the LMI tool at HBBC, the one that stand out for myself is the college website. I'm sure that other STEM specialist colleges and education settings, whether that be secondary schools, sixth forms or colleges like ourselves, would have struggled to find accessible LMI information to share with both parents and students on the website that was completely accessible, and I really feel this is. On top of that, there's lots of links there in the tool to different training providers and next steps, as well as the videos, which will be really useful for parents and students to explore opportunities in the transition. And then also for myself and for other careers leaders looking at benchmark 7 and 8, my employer engagement, this tool gives me a real insight to the different growth sectors, and it'll allow me to really tap into those skill shortages within the Birmingham area. Not only does it give me company names of growth companies, but it also gives me the sectors, so I can ensure that our work placement offering and the opportunities that students are exploring are not only in line with their aspirations, but in line with the local labour market information and growth sectors. Obviously, getting an opportunity to explore those careers through employer encounters and work experience gives them the opportunity to really, you know, go on to growth sectors and better outcomes for them. For myself as careers leader, definitely for my careers event planning, I find it really useful that it had such an array of different training providers within the Birmingham area that did a whole range, and also the entry requirements, some of which I must admit surprised me. They were lower than I expected them to be, so it was really insightful in that. So yes, planning my careers events, I can ensure that I'm getting a clear representation for the growth sectors within the Birmingham area. Then, as BB just said in that tool there, careers lessons, this tool has got so many resources that are accessible to send, all in widget. Ourselves use widget, and I know most settings that are similar to myself do use widget symbols. So it's something that students are very familiar with already. And the opportunity to give feedback as well is brilliant for our evaluation of our offer and our delivery. And the videos and things, they're such short bursts. We can really just get some clear career shorts embedded throughout the curriculum. And what the resources do, just really do raise the awareness of careers within the curriculum and just further embed it. I'm lucky I work in a college where careers is really embedded throughout our curriculum, but this just gives an extra additional layer to that. As I said before, the employer engagement, so our work placement provision, myself, like many other settings that are similar to myself, provide work placements and supported internships. I know that a lot of sixth form colleges are going down the supported internship route, and also with the work placements. I feel that our offering really needs to be targeted in these areas, as, like I say, for our students, the outcomes and the growth sectors, you know, that it really does make a difference. Sorry if I'm talking too fast. Right, next slide, please. And yes, so how else would you use it? For our transition events, our students, we have 37 students after COVID transitioning this year onto the next steps, and it's a real great, it's just a wealth of information with regards to what's available out there for next steps. And like I said before previously, it really does give you some real clear insight, not just for the website, but who are you inviting to your transition events? Are you, you know, representing all the opportunities available for your young people? Is it really clear to parents to make it, you know, to guide and help their young people to make those right decisions and, you know, informed decisions? Also, for ourselves, I know everybody else is probably exactly the same. We have career display boards, and there's a lot of information out of here that we can really hone in on and pick out and just really promote what's available in around Birmingham and what's growing. So I thought we'd be really good for that. Then, like I say, with the 7 and 8, again, it comes in with our guest speaker planning and our employer-led workshops. These are, already embedded within our careers programme, but these really do give you a starting block if you're not really sure which avenue to take. So yeah, getting the guest speakers in, really promoting, raising those student aspirations, raising awareness, giving real clear insights, and getting some apprentices in those fields in to talk to students, get some of the alumni in to talk to the students, really get a flavour really for it. And then yes, careers insights, so providing insights to the various career opportunities available for both parents, carers, students, and where am I? Yeah, parents, carers, students within lessons, but also, like I say, on the website and at our transition events. It's a multitude of, it's a real multitude of benefits to this tool. Like I say, I took it from the angle as to what other avenues, what other benchmarks could this support, and I think they all feed into one another perfectly. The next slide, please, Louise. So again, I keep on saying about transitions, but it's so important when you're looking at the next steps, looking at the future, to make sure that, like I say, everyone's making those informed choices, that everyone is really clear on what those next step opportunities are. Then, like I said, raising the awareness and aspirations. The various web pages. We've got web pages for both our students, tutors, employers, and our parents / carers. And those web pages, it's brilliant to be able to put on our employer section some kind of case studies, things like that, that really do reflect, what we're doing to address the skills shortage. I know if anybody else was on the training, CSC training about Ofsted, it's something that both the DFE and Ofsted are looking into from September 22, looking at how us as education settings are addressing that skills shortage and that skills gap. And this really reflects that also, as well as the evidence and evaluating of that. Newsletters and mail, we do lots of emails and newsletters out around careers, what's going on, opportunities, and I'd like to think that we could get some editorials and things like that into our newsletters. Again, it's just getting it out there and raising awareness. And then it's just questions from me. I'm sorry, I've talked less than 5 minutes because I've talked rapidly. Is there any questions?
That was great, Claire. We've got 3 other careers leads who are going to do a similar summary. So we can either take questions at the end or pop them in the chat. There you go.
First of all, can I just say thank you? It is absolutely fantastic. And we're really grateful at James Brindley that it isn't just Birmingham, but it is the greater Birmingham, because we have a lot of students that live outside of the area. So it is great to talk about that, particularly with young people and parents and carers. So I don't want to duplicate some of the things that Claire has said about, but these are just some ideas that we've initially thought of about how we're going to use it at James Brindley. One of the ways that we really want to use the videos as like quick wins, which we're always after, are using the videos in like form time activities, because we have a weekly slot, putting it on the website, using it in curriculum lessons. The fact that you've actually got different activities that are send and for the same activity, but a different way of young people doing the actually recording of it or the research is fantastic for James Brindley, because we do have young people that might be really able and have come from a mainstream school, sometimes grammar schools, and need that kind of activity, but in the same group as a young person that needs to have a differentiated way of doing the same activity. So that has gone down really well. I've had a brief meeting with our head of catering and asked her how she would like to use it within her setting. And so she said that she would literally incorporate it in her lessons. So it would be things like some of the job roles that you've that are on there, she wouldn't reveal that straight away, that she would ask them to do some research and guess what the salaries are, because that's always a hot topic. And often young people might, she found, that overestimate what they think they could earn, but it's actually helping young people to realise that you might enter a job at one level, and then when you gain experience, that your salary goes up, and with more training. We've also got, we do Skills Builder at James Brindley, and we've got a drop-down collapsed timetable day in March. And Skills Builder is great and talks a lot about skills, but it doesn't really link it to industry sectors. So I have asked a member of SLT that oversees Skills Builder, could we use it within our drop-down day? So whilst we look at it, it's centered around Skills Builder, but trying to merge the two so that it really is linking these skills that you're developing and gaining, but where within what is the labour market, where can you actually use that? So he's really keen for us to use it during that. We've also just thought about things like we do we contribute to the Year 9 options booklet, so we could use Snipping Tool, my favourite tool, and put bits of it within that, or newsletters. We're starting to do parent workshops about a variety of things, including like EHCPs and the process, but we would incorporate it in lots of things at any time that we meet parents. So it could be showing a video, it could just be bits of the booklet that are relevant. I think I've covered everything there, and I'll leave a few for the other two presenters to say.
So I've obviously gone through the resource, and to not repeat what others have said about it, equally I did want to say a few things, that one or two key points of what resource and how it's going to help in schools. And how we're using it here. I think when we saw the resource, because it's quite a large one, and it's a really comprehensive multifunctional tool. It's not just covering about labour market information, but it's putting that underbedding thing that we need when we're speaking to students about labour market information. When we know that when we're giving them a resource and we're saying, here you go and research this, they then don't necessarily go and do that next step of clicking. They don't do that next cross-checking or qualifications and what they mean. And keeping in mind of parents as well, they may not know how to do this, and this resource actually puts all of that in one place. So for us, we see that as a really positive move forward. So instead of a student just being isolated to one aspect of it, if they've got a question, they can go to another part of the resource. So we found it really friendly, definitely multifunctional, and it did a lot more than we were expecting it to be honest. One of the key resources that we like in it are the PDF sheets that you have for the videos and the question sheets. Instead of having to print these, so thank you very much when you put these together, the PDFs can be downloaded and typed into straight away, which means that our young people can save them straight away to their areas. So there's less resourcing and preparation from our point of view as well. They're quite self-directional as well. So when I looked at this, it was looking at how we were going to use it. So as Claire said, absolutely transition. So transition for us is going to be when our year sixes come in and their parents for their year 7 sort of open introduction evening in the summer. There are loads of videos embedded in this. It explains about labour market information that we can then just play in the background as parents come in. So it's introducing it in quite an exciting way about careers for the future, and sort of setting that scene of what we're doing for our students is about preparing them for the future, and making sure that parents know, because I think in school we know what our students are doing, but we don't necessarily, we can't rely on them to get that information over to parents, and parents are a little bit apprehensive about asking questions and don't want to show ignorance. So I think the resource actually addresses that, and it allows them to look at it in their own time. So we're going to use it as a key transition for year 6 into 7. Our year 8s are currently choosing their GCSEs. They start in year 9. And this is a resource that we're going to be using again at our curriculum evenings to engage both students and parents, as well as using it for students when we have them off timetable to look at their GCSEs. And it's going to be informing and reassuring. So if you work in a school, you know, when they're choosing their GCSEs, they get a bit panicked about, will we choose the wrong GCSE, etc. And this resource sort of reassures them that we are preparing our young people for the future, and we know what's going on in our areas, and we know what's growing. So by the time they get through to sort of year 11, where they need to make that next stage, then we will have that information ready for them. Equally for year 11, how we're using it or could use it for year 11, and it's keeping it all in one place as well. It's not delivering it once, it's not delivering the whole resource at once, it's using bits of it for different times. And for year 11, it really is going to be about influencing their choices and guiding them to that influence as well. So the biggest panic that we have had from young people in year 11 with COVID is, if I choose subjects that don't allow me to progress into something, and will I get a job in the future? And that kind of addresses it to that. We did trial it a little bit with some of our year 8s and year 11s to find out what their feedback was, so that we had that information, not just from us. We know how good this resource can be for us, and when you see it, I think you'll appreciate sort of the value behind it. But obviously students have got to use this in isolation away from us as well. Year 8 really liked it and thought that they would need to be guided onto it, and guided very carefully onto it. And we're going to use a lot of resources of linking careers into the curriculum. We're not going to be delivering it necessarily as careers item, it's going to go straight to Gaps Benchmark 4 as well. And year 11 liked the fact that they could do this independently and almost be treated as grown-ups in being able to do that. They didn't necessarily understand everything on there because everyone's at different stages, but we did like that split of our SEND students being able to access the same resources as all the other students. So it is an absolutely brilliant multifunctional resource, does everything that we need it to do, but it does more than that. But those PDFs, thank you so much, that saves so much time. And it's almost repeating the same as everyone else. So for us, it's transition, it's ensuring the parents have the information that they need, and it's actually matching the Gatsby as well, which is linking curriculum learning to careers, and really as a promotional tool for some of our departments, which will be new subjects for students to choose, for example, health and social care. And that would be a way of the department promoting not just to students, but to parents as well. So thank you very much. Very comprehensive resource. So we have already started to use aspects of it, but not sent it out yet, obviously. So thank you.
Okay, Debbie, that's great, and useful to hear about how the different year groups, you know, the different way that year groups took to it. So that was interesting. Thank you very much. Michelle, are you ready now?
Can you hear me?
It still sounds like you might be breaking
Can you hear me,
up.
Jackie?
Oh, we can. That was better.
Okay. So just to add on to Debbie, really, because I've looked at it and looked at using it for Gatsby Benchmark 4 as well, and sharing it with teachers. I'm just going to bullet point in there. But I think we particularly will probably use so because we find a lot of parents, you know, it's quite challenging for some of our parents because they have a strong influence on their child. So we'll probably use it for that as well, and you know, coffee mornings and things like that. So we'll want to try and get parents educated as well as using it, as well as the students.
Okay. Yeah, lovely, Michelle. Thank you. That was great. Has anybody got any quick questions for anybody that's just presented there, as they are fellow careers leads? If anybody wants to ask them a question before we move on to the last section. No? Okay. Moving on then now. Louise, are you happy to share the slides?
Yep, just getting them up.
Thank you. As the four ladies have just alluded to, you know, labour market information comes across, is multifaceted and comes across many benchmarks, and that was a great lead into the bit I'm going to talk about now, which is looking at benchmark 2 in a little bit more detail, because obviously we've talked a lot about the resource and we've talked a lot about labour market information, and it's benchmark 2 that it is actually relative to this that we talk about. Thank you, that's lovely. Okay, so I'm just going to spend 5 minutes looking at benchmark 2 in a little bit more detail, and you'll see that much of what I'm going to talk about is very much what we've already just looked at in those 4 presentations. So there is a great resource for any new careers lead on there that hasn't seen a booklet called What Good Looks Like, and this has been produced by the CEC. It can be downloaded from their resource directory, but obviously, you know, get in touch with your enterprise coordinator if you haven't got a copy and you want one. And what this booklet does is it puts the meat on the bones of the Gatsby benchmark. So it just goes into a little bit more detail of what, if you are doing this benchmark well, what that would look like. And it's every benchmark with a few bullet points. So all I've done here is taken the bullet points and then put a bit of information underneath of what it actually means. So the first thing it says is that LMI should be embedded into experiences of the workplace and employer encounters. So anything that you're doing with that, so this is benchmark 5, should be linked to LMI. So anything that you are planning around employer encounters or students going into the workplace, in your planning, look to be asking these people to talk about the LMI that's relative to their industry. Actually get it planned into that encounter. That will help you with this benchmark. It then goes in about monitoring destinations, and I think Georgina spoke about this. So in your destinations, make reference to LMI, how it's using it to inform your programme and develop your careers programme strategically. And what I've put here is just a screenshot of something that James Bringley do. They're very good at putting on their website their destinations at the end of every year. And they actually do look at, if you look at to the right there, they actually say some of the courses that the students are going into, actually put how that increased in science and engineering. So they're actually looking at labour market information in their destination reports. So that is another example of how to use labour market information and to support benchmark 2. Next slide, please, Louise. Okay, we've talked a lot about displays in corridors and classrooms, and there was a question in the chat about could the resource be developed as posters. It can be printed off, so you could use it to display in classrooms. But having this labour market information visible, not only in your corridors and your classrooms, but also on your website. We talk to a lot of you about benchmark 1 and how having information for parents, employers, staff on your website. Make sure that labour market information is on there, and this resource would be one thing that you could have on your website to help with this. But we've also put there some examples of other websites that you could have on your website to actually have this labour market information there visible for parents, staff, students to use. Then to the right, students should be supported to access and understand up-to-date LMI. Obviously, we've got there a picture of the resource, My Way, the resource we're talking about today, and I think the 4 schools have talked a lot about how that can be used in a supportive way to help with decision making. But we've also put there some things of other websites, LMI for All, I know a lot of you use. Another one that the schools use, Where the Work Is, that's another great website that you can use with students or direct students to help them make decisions. And so many of you use Unifrog and Zello. Labour market information is embedded into all of those programs. So having those programs embedded into your programme for careers will help you again with benchmark 2. Next slide, please, Louise. Many of you do mock interviews, CV building to gain employability skills, ensuring that you can look at ways of getting labour market information into these things. Think about questions that you might ask students in mock interviews. Think about when they're doing their CV. Are they updating it with the skills? You know, Catherine talked a lot about the skills that students need now for jobs of the future. Are you in these activities ensuring that you are getting not only the jobs, but the skills that these jobs and these growth sectors are looking for? Make sure that that's embedded into these activities. Next point, the LMI should be shared, understood and used objectively by teaching staff. I think that, again, you know, the four ladies talked about benchmark 4 and how this resource and embedding this resource into curriculum will help with being used by teaching staff. Parents, we've talked about links to websites already, and that comes into benchmark 1. Many schools send out newsletters, a couple of examples there. The bottom right is a specific careers newsletter that gets sent out by one of our schools. It just talks about careers, activities in school and labour market, and would update about labour market information. And the other example is many schools send out general web newsletters, not just careers focused, but make sure that you are getting a section in that newsletter to talk about labour market information, to refer to the resource or other information or websites as well. Next slide, please, Louise. Okay, we're nearly done. Using LMI in discrete lessons such as PSHE, and there is reference in the what good looks like to including financial planning and research skills. So what we've done there is we've put a couple of examples of websites that where students can actually do that. Barclays Life Skills is a great one for financial planning, and the other one, free online financial education sessions. And there will be a slide towards the end of this. All the links I've talked about will be in a slide on its own with a link, so you can just click on them and see all these websites in more detail. And again, curriculum teachers highlighting jobs in their subject areas, benchmark 4. And we've put there the links to the My Learning, My Future CEC resource, which is a fantastic resource that goes into great detail for subject staff, gives them a lesson plan, will give them resources, links to videos that will go into a number of subjects. So if you haven't looked at that, again, there'll be a link in the final slide where you can have a look at that, but that really is ready for you to send out to curriculum staff so they can use it. And of course, National Careers Service has got a wealth of information about subjects and jobs and how they link together. I think it's the final slide for me, isn't it? Yeah. And then finally, in the what good looks like for benchmark 2, a range of education and training providers to inform them about approved technical education, qualifications or apprenticeships. Been a lot of talk about this today throughout the whole presentation. So obviously this links to benchmark 7. So any activity you're planning with HE, with FE, with training providers, again, in your planning, make sure that you're asking the people who are coming in to talk about the labour market information and the trends in their sector or in their apprenticeship offer. Embed it in, and I've put a general comment in red there for all opportunities, that think for any opportunity, have you maximised it to address benchmark 2? Because so many of you are doing all of the things we've talked about, and the presentations that the ladies gave about you're doing benchmark 4. Your students are going out on work experience or having workplace encounters. They are having encounters with employers. Don't miss the planning opportunity to make sure that you are embedding this labour market information into all of those. And that should really help some of you who are either struggling with benchmark 2 who are around benchmark 80% and need to sort of push that last 20% to make it 100%. Think about all of the things that we've spoken about today and how you can embed this information to make sure that you can really embellish benchmark 2 and really, you know, move it up. Final slide, I think, from me. Louise, is it? Okay. Oh no, there will be a slide. Sorry, I thought that or is it next slide, Louise, with some of the links? Yeah, so we will put some of the links I've talked about there so that you can have a look, and it might be that you want, if you're not already using them, you might want to embed them into some of your websites or start using them so we will send that out with the presentation. Okay, that's me done. So this is the final, any other business and questions. So Mike, would you like to finish off now?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think there's as soon as you've said that would anybody like some support with that, what good looks like resource, then there's obviously appetite for that. So we'll make sure we get that information out, and obviously your enterprise coordinators can work with you on those as well. But we'll make sure the information that Jackie's been talking about is shared. That's not a problem at all. We'll make sure the links are sent out to you. We have been requested for the chat as well, so people can go back to some of the questions that have been asked and the links that have been shared. So we'll share those as well. So I think James mentioned about some work with the Creative Alliance, and they've got an event through Instagram, so some information on there for you. So we'll share that. So as it's already been said, the resource will be coming out. Louise, are we happy to put it in the chat, into the comments section, so people can access the PDF straight away?
I'm going to have a go at it now.
Excellent. So what we're going to attempt to do, hopefully we can get it straight. We tried this earlier, it did work on Teams, we'll try it on Zoom as well. We'll drop the link to the PDF into the chat now. If you can't access it through there, we will all obviously follow up this meeting with the copy of the guide, the presentation and the recording as well, so you can access everything we've gone through. And any of the resources we've gone through, if there's anything mentioned that you'd like to hear more about, or you'd like more information about, please just go directly to your enterprise coordinator. And if you're not sure who that is, we're doing some work at the moment to make sure there's some information coming out. There has been a little bit of change. Obviously, we've got some new people coming into our team, so that will be changes, but we'll make sure you're fully aware of who your go-to link is now.
Can I just say thank you to everyone who's taken part in supporting with creating this guide. There's too many names to mention, but everyone who's taken part, all the career leads that I've just shared today, thank you very much. And I do hope that you find the LMI guide really useful and helpful and supportive to the students and your whole entire school community really around LMI. So thank you very much.
And I'd like to finish by saying, well, look forward to seeing the benchmark 2 figures going up this year. And actually on that note, just to say about the next compass is due by the 1st of April. So anytime really after half term now, but the deadline will be the 1st of April for this term's compass. Okay. Excellent.
I think we're all done there. Jackie, team, thank you very much for that. Louise, thank you for all your work on that resource. I look forward to seeing how schools are going to utilise it now. So we'll be coming around to our school meetings and seeing how you're able to make this effective in the school and where it's being placed. So it'd be great to get some feedback from everyone about how you're getting on with this resource.